to, this seat rotation is not just something for fun. It is, you might not notice it instantly, but once you start doing it, you will notice a lot of changes. So I also encourage that if you can do that, it will be very helpful. So the next is reproductive and sexual health. I will only be talking in bits and pieces like I've mentioned because my counterparts will be going deeper into it. And then since I'm more into intervening and then being a mediator, I also don't want to go very detailed. I just want to make sure that you understand how can you be a mediator. So reproductive and sexual health. The key knowledge areas is accurate reproductive anatomy, and puberty education, understanding menstruation, wet dreams, and hormonal drives, the difference between affection, attraction, and sexual behavior, concepts of consent, boundaries, and safe sex practices. I hope everyone can see this, right? The slides? Yeah, okay. So, reproductive and sexual health, the 4 points I've mentioned, and then the challenges. So first I'll come to this accurate reproductive anatomy and puberty education. Can anyone know can anyone tell me what do you understand by that? Accurate reproductive anatomy and puberty education. Can anyone tell me? See, it has something to do with, I am sure by class 8 or 9 that there's about sex education, right? If I'm not reproduction, yeah. So see, accurate reproductive anatomy and puberty education means, see, when you are teaching I've noticed this a lot also. Even during my high school days, when my science teacher will come to the topic of reproductive and sexual health, he'll just blah 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 blah, and then they will not mention anything. Teacher, they feel shy. During my high school, I've noticed that also. So it was very awkward for us as students also to, talk about prayers, no? Something very like to do with reproduction, talk about penis. We didn't have this common room, comfort. Why? Because the teacher themselves, when it comes to reproductive and sexual, they will just skip. When there's penis mentioned, they will just skip and say, okay, class, it's over. No? See, don't do that. Accurate reproductive anatomy is give them the factual things, right? Mention like about sex. Mention like the growth, about menstruation, about wet dreams. It is okay to have wet dreams, right? And then hormonal drives. Our estrogen, the girls, estrogen and progesterone. It is, the hormones drives are very high for some, right? It is okay to have wet dreams, I've noticed, I think Saint Carmel or I forgot Saint Joseph, I think, Jumun. So a student from class 8 he wanted to learn about this wet dreams a lot. He was like, sir, I have a question. I said, yes, tell me. He's like, I need to write in a piece of paper. No, you need to tell me first. No, I need to write. He said, sir, sometimes when I wake up in the morning, my underpants used to be wet. I was like, I don't know why. It's not even pee, but I get this. Right? This is a question there. So he was in class 10, by the way. So I was like, by class 10, I think you should be aware of about this. So I was talking to the teacher also. So the teacher was like, when we talk about this, like students also they don't want this, so we don't even go in detail. And I was like, no, it is very important at this day and age, when when early pregnancies are going on, when there's sex assault. These are very important topics. We need to, put it deep in their mind. It is very important. So this is something I'm talking and then giving an example of what I faced. So you can also, visualize it and then, put it into practice when you go from here. So the third point is the difference between affection, attraction, and sexual behavior. Something we, including me or, a lot of people no one can distinguish between affection. What is affection, attraction, and sexual behavior? And I think it is time, I think, and I really feel strongly that it is time that we impart this knowledge to adolescents, to our young children. Affection is something, having love and care for family, friends, no physical contact, nothing. Just that, having that, And then attraction is something you really feel attracted. I love you as a person, or I like you. It may not have physical, it may just be a hug or something, but even from afar, yes. And sexual behavior. It's something to do, with physical. So I'm sure every one of you are reading the news and then coming out, there are a lot of things about young children being, sexually victimized, and then maybe a young guy is raping a young girl. It has become a very common issue. 10 years back, there was not one. But now, a lot of cases every day. And then we are also so used to it, we're like, another. We're not surprised anymore when a young kid, assault another. We're not surprised anymore. We're just like, again, see, the world we are living in right now. So I think it's very important, to teach the young children the difference between the affections, Even there are cases of adults. Recently there was a case where an adult assaulted young children of 14 years, I think, 14 or 12, I forgot. See, when you teach adolescents about this affection, attraction and sexual behavior, and I'll also continue with this consent. Consent is something you should tell them. Consent is a yes or no, right? And boundaries, their personal limit. If they're not comfortable, you need to teach them. They need to be able to say no. Just because they're adults, the children cannot always say yes to the adults. You set them their boundaries. Teach them that they have their own personal rights, right? And they can say no. See, a lot of cases, all men raping a young girl in the lure of, taking them to somewhere or treating them something, adolescent being very, very innocent. They would just go with the adult, thinking that all the adults are right in what they do. No? Because we don't teach them that, these are the boundaries you should have. The personal boundaries. For us, we go with them. And this happened. So it is very important. And I encourage every one of you to have a serious discussion and then have this discussion with your children. This affection, attraction, and sexual behavior differences, the concept of consent, boundaries, and sex practices. These are something we should talk again and again and again. Because like my sir has mentioned just earlier, HIV and AIDS has gone through the roof. And I think it starts, from adolescence. If we start to impart them with good knowledge, to teach them to have a good and strong personality with all those imparting their minds, I'm sure we can change that in the next 5 years, right? We can really do that. So, so with your teaching, one of the most difficult challenges is from peers and media. That is one thing, and that is something I think we are all fighting, and then now everyone with their phones, they get information, There was a client of mine who had this very young. So he was tested for syphilis, and he was like, "Sir, I browsed in the net. I'm going to have HIV/AIDS. Now I'm going to the first slight stages of syphilis he had." And he was, how will I tell my parents now? I didn't have sex also. How did I get it? No?